Welcome to another session. I hope you are well. In today's session, I want to speak to the topic, the importance of wise counsel. The title is Whose Words Are Influencing You? Now, we know that one of the most common things that we have in society today is an opinion. All opinions are not always ranked equally. Anyone on the street corner will tell you what they think. It doesn't necessarily mean that such an opinion should be applied to your life. And certainly, such an opinion should not be used as a basis for creating or building the foundations of your life. As men of honor, we have a duty to ourselves to ensure that we have good counsel, wise counsel, mature counsel around us. Now, despite this, I understand fully well that often it's not what people say, but it's the lives they lead and what they do that matters. As you already know, who I am speaks so loudly, most of the time you cannot hear what I say. And similarly, in your case, who you are speaks so loudly that I cannot hear what you say. Words definitely make the man, but it's important to recognize that there must be congruency and integrity and consistency between your spoken words and the life you lead, the life you choose to practice, your daily mannerisms, behaviors, lifestyle should be evident for most people to see, and therefore you should say very little. As a matter of fact, if you're a person of integrity as a man, you need not say much, because who you are is reflected in the life you lead, and the people around you can see that. Nonetheless, to ensure you find and achieve success in your life, it's important to recognize that you cannot walk the path alone. It was Isaac Newton who said, if I can see further than you have or than you can, it's simply because I've had the opportunity to stand on the shoulder of giants. If I can see further than you can, it's simply because I can and I have been able to stand on the shoulders of giants. The shoulders there refer to the wisdom, the knowledge, the experience of other people who came before him. And so as a person of honor, as a man of honor, it's necessary that you always seek good counsel, wise counsel. Now, over the years, and going back as far as the books of antiquities, one of the things we would acknowledge and agree is most men who succeeded did so because they had someone, a voice, a still small voice or a loud voice, telling them, we think you're making a mistake. Apply some caution. We think you're going too fast. Slow down. Most people fail in life also by virtue of the fact that they either have the wrong voice or they have no voices guiding them and advising them. I would say in my experience and in my life, for example, my struggles and my suffering for most of my life were by choice. They were by choice implicitly or explicitly. The things that I forgot to do, errors and mistakes of omission, and errors and mistakes of commission, things I should have done but didn't, and the things I should not have done in the first place. With regards to the latter, things I should not have done in the first place, I didn't know any better. And so I was living life from my experience. In regards to things I should have done but didn't, I also wasn't wise enough to discern and recognize the difference between opportunities. I couldn't read the tea leaves. I couldn't understand moments. I couldn't recognize the uniqueness of an opportunity. And so I made mistakes and I failed several times in my life. But one of the turning points in my life came when I started to lean towards other men and other women who were much older than I was. Not just older in chronological age, but older in terms of their vision, in terms of their experience, in terms of their lived, but also their studied experience. And as I started to model and listen to people who knew much more, who had better judgment, I found that I started to avoid obvious mistakes. So as a man of honor, I understand that leadership is loneliness and that you have to walk the path alone, but it is very important to seek and heed the advice of wise counsel. Hence, it's necessary for you to have a board, a group of people who you lean on for your most important decisions in your life. And I would even go as far as saying, do not wait for the most important decisions. Have decisions on a tier basis, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, 3 perhaps representing the most important: to buy a house, to get married, to pursue an opportunity, to immigrate. Tier 2 could be things such as how to negotiate, how to make important decisions with regards to certain quantities of money, making decisions with regards to education, what university to go to. Maybe tier 1 could be your day-to-day interactions with people. The tier 2 and the tier 3 decisions should always be, your decisions as a man of honor should always be influenced by good and sound reasoning. I'm going to separate men into groups now. I talk about 18 and below, from 18 to 35, and from 35 and over. Let's assume that the first group I set aside, not because there isn't much that I can share with you, but as out of respect for your parents or your guardians, perhaps it's not my place. Nonetheless, perhaps you might learn something from this if you fall within that group and you do not have a guardian, someone guiding you through life. 18 to 35. I am of the view that between 18 and 30, and perhaps I will be doing a disservice to group that long age group in one. Let me break it down. Between 18 and 23, or 18 and 25 certainly, 95% of all of your decisions as a man should not be made through your experience and through your own lived opportunities and interactions with the world. 95% of your decisions should be outsourced, and you should find answers from the best people that you can find. 95% minimum. You should not be living and making decisions by yourself. Father, uncle, cousin, mentors, inspirational people, but people who have lived life and who've made mistakes and who've seen things. Otherwise, you run the risk of sabotaging your purpose. From 25 to 30, 85% of your decisions should be made by the counsel of other wise people, those who have good judgment, who have understanding, who have lived life, who have experience, who are well studied, who are well read, who have made mistakes, and most importantly, who have wisdom. From 35 and above, we can start to shift slowly, and we change that equation to the point where you are now more responsible. So you can take on a lot more. In my opinion, I think about 70% of your decisions, even at 35, should be outsourced. Not outsourced in terms of people making decisions for you, no, but that the thought process, the methodology, the reasoning, the rationale in coming up with a solution should be from the best thinking that is out there and available, and not yours. It's better to have a formula, rather, it's better to have a way of thinking about life that works most of the time, rather than a formula that works some of the time. I have found in my experience as a young person, I had this syndrome that I call, to the person with the hammer, everything looks like a nail. The younger I was, if I had found success in one area, I used that process and that formula for every other thing I encountered, thinking naively that was how life worked. It doesn't. Now, you have to understand that you need a tool set. And that tool set, you acquire tools like playing video games. As you gain points and as you solve the puzzle, you pick up new tools, and your tool set and tool chest starts to grow. But you can always borrow tools from other people, which is where mentors, advisors, wise counsel come into play. The story of Moses and Jethro, his father-in-law, comes to mind. His father-in-law had lived life, was wise, and said to Moses at one point in time, "You're taking on more burden than you can handle. This is too much. This is too much to do. You're leading all of these people, and you're trying to adjudicate, lead, inspire, motivate, direct all of these people, and at the same time, rest, recover for yourself. You will break down. Delegate some of the tasks, separate men into various groups. Some can judge for 10 for other people, 100 from other people, 1,000, 100,000. And then the managers, in other words, he was teaching them the art of business, management and delegation. And then you ask those at the top to come to you. You only have a few people that report to you. Those have other people that report to them. Those below them have other people that report to them. So you have a pyramid, and you are at the top. And therefore, you don't overburden yourself. Moses took the advice, and it worked. But if you're someone like Jeroboam, who refused the counsel of the elders, failure is inevitable. Failure is inevitable. I like to use this example, and I have used it when I speak to younger people. Let's imagine that we are stood in central London, and let's use the building, the Swiss Re building in central London, in the city. And you are 18 years old. 18 years will represent, we use in this particular example, the ground floor of the building. And every other floor represents an extra year. If I am, say, in this particular instance, let's just assume that I am 35, although I'm certainly not 35. I'll be flattered if someone said I look 35, actually. But let's assume I was 35. It would mean I would be 18 floors above you. Now, if you were on the ground floor and I asked you to look out of the street, and on the street is a parked car, and we're trying to direct that car from that particular part of central London, and we're moving, let's say, to Blackfriars Bridge. Because you're on the ground floor, all you can see is the street level. So you wouldn't be able to go and direct the car, assuming you were on a mobile phone and there was a driver and he was listening to you give instructions. Turn left, go to the traffic light, turn right. By the first traffic light, you can't see any further because there are buildings and obstacles. I'm 35, and therefore I am, on this particular instance, the 18th floor. As I look out the window, I can see much further than you. I can see the corners, I can see the next street. I can say to the driver, assuming there were two cars, my driver and your driver, I can say to my driver, do a left at the next traffic light. Drive for 200 yards, take a right. You get to the next traffic light, go past the traffic light and continue on that road until you come to the second junction. At the roundabout, take the first exit. Why can I give those directions? Because I can see much further. Assuming I'm not short-sighted or long-sighted or whatever sighted, then my advice will be better than yours because I can see much further than you can, and I have the wisdom of standing on the shoulders of giants. It's important as a man of honor, therefore, especially the younger you are, to heed, to seek the counsel of men who are older than you, or who are wiser than you, or who have had some experience than you. You see, it's too bad, sadly, that people who failed don't actually teach, don't actually make podcasts and give seminars, because I believe genuinely that we can learn from their lived experience. If someone says, I started this business, this was my business plan, I made X decision, Y decision, Z decision, and after 2 years I lost all the money, I had to declare bankruptcy, and they can explain to you the decisions they made on a step-by-step basis. You would be able to learn from their lived experience and their mistakes. In the similar way that when someone who's successful sits with you and says, I started that business and I made decision A, B, C, D, and E, you can also learn from their experiences. When I talk about wise counsel, I'm not excluding failures. As a matter of fact, you want people who have failed, who have tried things, who have attempted things because they have a better understanding and appreciation for what it means to have tenacity, determination, resilience, focus, grit, willpower, and never giving up. This may have been people who have been knocked down a few times. And so, as a man of honor, you need a council of men around you. Now, I'm going to bring today's session to a close, but let me say as follows. Finding good mentors is difficult because it has to be a pursuit. The protege is the one who pursues the mentor, not the other way around. One of the challenges I have found and I've seen is there is very little appetite in people to pursue people who are much wiser and who have lived longer and who have more to share. For some reason, there's an arrogance in not pursuing wise counsel. I paid a price for that mistake. I am recommending as a man of honor, do not make the same mistake that I have made. Seek people, pursue them, and when you find them, honor them, listen to them, and follow their directions. In my understanding and in my experience initially, when I started this journey, it was almost as though I wanted the mentors to teach me and coach me the way I wanted to be coached and taught. Another big mistake. It's important to follow the direction of the person until you realize that they do not know what they are talking about and they do not have any experience and results or outcomes to back up their advice. Do not try to make your mentors conform to what you want. Otherwise, you end up with the same results that you currently have. I'll close as follows. Show me a man who has succeeded, and show me a woman who succeeded. And I will show you a person who was willing to listen, to learn, to be humble, and to apply what has been given to them. It's one thing to learn, it's another to apply, and it's even another to actually make corrections to the application via the process of constant and continuous growth and improvement. Similarly, show me a person who's failed, and I will show you someone who refused to heed the instructions of wiser counsel and probably never had a board of people around him, a board of directors, guiding them about how to make important decisions according to the tiered decisions in their lives. As men of honor, we understand leadership is loneliness. We walk the path alone. Your purpose is given to you alone. However, just like the Savior, as you carry up your cross up to the place of skull, sometimes the burden is too much. And you might need a Simon to help you shoulder some of that burden, give you some breathing space, give you time to inhale once again, to allow you to make it to the top. I hope today's session has been useful.